mounting questions tonight about the status of the Republican National Convention after President Trump fired off a series of tweets this morning suggesting Charlotte could lose it, saying Governor Roy Cooper is in, quote, shutdown mood and unable to guarantee we will be able to have full attendance. Those tweets stirred up a firestorm of responses from city and state leaders. Our Joe Bruno has been closely following the plans for the RNC. And Joe, this message from the president just 90 days out is really unsettling for a lot of people.
Erica, those were the most talked about tweets in Charlotte tonight. But could the city actually lose the Republican National Convention? It would be a complicated and messy breakup. When the city of Charlotte agreed to host the Republican National Convention, they didn't sign any deal with President Donald Trump. He is not a party in the contract. When some city leaders wanted to explore canceling the convention, they were reminded of this.
The Republican National Convention, the host committee, the city, the CRVA, and the county. Those are the parties that are actually a member of this particular agreement.
The city attorney told council the only way to get out of the contract at this point is for there to be a breach. The party that breaches the contract is obviously at risk of legal action. When it comes to convention planning, leaders have said it's second only to the Olympics. For more than a year, the Secret Service and law enforcement have been developing a plan to keep the city safe. Millions of dollars have already been spent, and last month the city voted to accept $50 million from the Department of Justice to cover security costs. If the RNC is considering breaking up with Charlotte, that word hasn't made its way to Mecklenburg County GOP Vice Chair Sarah Reedy Jones.
I haven't heard that from anybody over at the RNC. I think it would be awfully difficult to do anything in 90 days, let alone a major convention. And I think at the end of the day, North Carolina legislators and elected officials will do what's in the best interest for the economics of North Carolina.
She expects at the end of the day, leaders will strike a deal to keep the RNC in town. She says she's ready to follow any rules that have to be in place in order for the event to happen in the Queen City.
I'll be ready to go if that means I have to wear a fabulous elephant mask or whatever we end up doing.
As far as how talks are going between the state and the Republican National Committee, here's the head of the GOP convention, Marshall Lee Kelly, talking to me 10 days ago.
The governor and his staff have been wonderful.
And she didn't hesitate when I asked this.
Is the Republican National Convention going to be in Charlotte?
Absolutely. It's going to be in Charlotte. We're going to be able to show off Charlotte, and the president's very excited to be here, along with a whole bunch of other guests and Republicans from all across our 56 delegations.
Okay, so if things were a go as of tomorrow, would the RNC be able to happen here?
Yes, it would, but in limited capacity. Think about the race that just happened at Charlotte Motor Speedway, how they were able to hold it, but only with essential personnel. The real question, though, is are delegates considered spectators, and would they be allowed in the arena as well? But keep in mind, we're 90 days away. We're in phase 2 right now. We could be in phase 3 next month. And the city of Charlotte is expecting to provide guidance next month on how the RNC and other large events can happen. Erica?
Well, Joe, do you think the RNC would reconsider hosting the event because of the president's comments? I know he has influence, but probably not the final say with the contract.
So we reached out to the Republican National Committee today for a comment on the president's tweets. They did not get back to us. Of course, the president has a lot of influence. He had a big say in Charlotte being selected as well. But keep in mind, we're 90 days out. It will be tough to find another venue at this point that can accommodate an event of this size. We're not talking about like just another football game or an NBA basketball game being moved. This is a grand production, so it's really going to take a lot of planning in order to make sure this happens here in Charlotte alone, let alone somewhere else. Erica?
Yeah, a lot of security preparations and all that already in place. So thank you, Joe. We know the impact the RNC could have on Charlotte's economy, certainly. Businesses have struggled the past 2 months during this pandemic. And City Councilman Larkin Eggleston says he knows many are hoping that the spike from the RNC will help to make up for that loss. Eggleston said today on CNN that he understands the economic impact, but the priority should always be health.
The only thing, though, that would have a more dire economic impact than losing a convention of this size, along with all the other events we expected to have this fall, would be if we had to go back into some sort of a modified stay-at-home order and reverse some of this reopening that we're doing. And frankly, if we're reckless about this reopening and we're reckless about the events that we hold and what parameters are set on them, we will have to go backwards. And I think that would be even more dire for those small businesses that need that shot in the arm than the loss of any single convention.
Well, in 2018, Eggleston was one of 4 Democrats who voted in favor of bringing the convention here to Charlotte. He says it took a lot of work for the city to be selected as the host for the convention, and that bailing out now is not realistic.
Years of planning go into every one of these conventions, and I think for a new venue, a new host city to be asked to pull it together in 3 months would be difficult. And frankly, I think that if the reason that they're moving is because they don't want to adhere to some of the precautions that our governor and our state health director think are necessary, I think it'd be pretty reckless of those states that might consider hosting it to do so without putting those precautions in place.
As for the Democratic National Committee, their convention is set to take place in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, a week earlier than the RNC. The DNC has said it hopes to conduct the convention in person, but the DNC Rules and Bylaws Committee passed a resolution earlier this month that would allow them to make changes for public health reasons, including the possibility of virtual voting. That resolution still needs to be approved by the full DNC.